So we saw the cerebrum in the earlier video. Now we see about the cerebellum. Cerebellum is also called the little brain, which is located over here on this part over here. That is the lower part of the brain. Very important. It is most dangerous area. अगर यहाँ पे किसी को लग जाती है, the person may even die because of the damage caused to the cerebellum. So the cerebellum is a much smaller area of the brain located just as at the base and under the large cerebrum. So under the large cerebrum, there is a small area which is the one which is connected to the cerebellum. It has no convolutions but has numerous furrows. This also has an outer cortex made of grey matter. Centrally, it has white matter, which is in the median section, appearing like a branching tree. So if you see the figure over here with cerebellum, ऐसा लगता है जैसे अंदर एक branch tree हो या तो एक cauliflower जैसा दिखता है. तो वो क्यों है? Because of the presence of the white matter, that is the axons which are inside over there, which is giving you that particular feeling or the shape of the cerebellum to be like that. So the outer cortex is of course the same grey matter, and the inner one is the white matter. So centrally it is the white matter which is in the median section, appearing like a branch tree. The main function of the cerebellum is to maintain balance of the body and coordinate muscular activity. So when I am standing, I am able to stand because my muscles are in the coordination, and that's why I am able to balance myself completely, and that is due to the process of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is maintaining the posture, it is maintaining the balance. So even if I want to stand on one leg, at that time also what I am doing, I am balancing my body. So that balancing of body is going to be undertaken by the coordination of the muscles. The coordination of muscle causes the balance. So the body balance, the complete body balance is going to be monitored by the cerebellum. The impulse for performing a muscular act originates in the cerebrum and not in the cerebellum. For example, if you stand up and walk, the impulse of this activity arises in the cerebrum, conscious part. The act of walking involves coordinating working of many muscles. Proper coordination timing of their contraction and relaxation is the responsibility of the cerebellum. यानी क्या? I want to lift the duster. So the thought came to me that I need to lift the duster. Who is going to give that particular instructions? That instructions are going to be that I want to lift the duster. That originates from the cerebrum. The cerebrum originates the particular impulse that okay, I want to lift the duster. But then my hand moves near the table, I lift it, I hold the duster and bring it up. This particular activity requires a lot of muscle coordination, many extensions and the contractions of the muscles to take place. This expansion, contraction of the muscles and coordination of the muscles so that the duster actually I am able to lift the duster and hold it properly is done with the help of cerebellum. So इंस्ट्रक्शंस दिया सेरिब्रम ने, बट उसको कोऑर्डिनेट मैनर में कंप्लीट किया सेरिबेलम ने. Okay, so that is the work of cerebellum, to coordinate the muscular activity to do a particular function. Proper coordination timing of their contraction and relaxation is the responsibility of the cerebellum. An alcoholic person, when drunk, generally walks clumsily. The cerebrum, due to the effect of alcohol, is unable to coordinate muscular movements properly. So you can see an alcoholic person, he will be just moving around, he will be dragging himself on one side and this side, and he will be maybe not able to balance himself. Why is that so? Because it is the cerebellum which gets affected by the alcohol. When anybody consumes alcohol, it is the cerebellum which is getting affected, and when the cerebellum gets affected, it is not able to coordinate the muscular movements, and because it is not able to coordinate the muscular movements, that's why the person is going to be moving in the drunkard way जो है, that is because of that particular loss of coordination by the cerebellum due to the alcoholic effect. The third region is the medulla oblongata. So third region of the brain. So first was cerebrum, then cerebellum, नीचे है medulla oblongata, most important part. In fact, I mistook it. I told that cerebellum को जब भी लगेगा तो आदमी मर जाएगा. No, it is a medulla oblongata के जिसके ऊपर कोई अगर मार लग गया तो he will die, because medulla oblongata takes care of all the involuntary activities of the body. Cerebrum and cerebellum is doing all the voluntary activities. I need to think, I need to pick up the book, I need to go out, I need to run, I need to walk, I need to eat. वो सब क्या हुआ? Voluntary activities हो गया. और this voluntary activities में muscle control वगैरह चाहिए. वो सब कौन करता है? Cerebrum and cerebellum. But uncontrolled things in our body, okay, the involuntary activities of the body, the pumping of the heart, the movement of the lungs, the respiration, the movement of the food, ये जो भी है, they are all involuntary activities. That particular coordination of the involuntary activities of the body is taken care by the medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata is the lowest portion of the brain located at the base of the skull. It is roughly triangular and continued behind as a spinal cord. So medulla oblongata जहाँ पे खत्म होता है उसी से नीचे spinal cord चालू होता है. So that's why there is a very fine kind of difference between the spinal cord and the medulla oblongata. So वो दोनों में काफ़ी confusion हो जाता है कि क्या point out करना है. And when we are having something like label the diagram, at that time if the medulla oblongata is also marked and the spinal cord is also shown over there, and it's difficult to identify that thing. But of course the upper part will be spinal cord, will be medulla oblongata, and the lower part will be spinal cord. So it is roughly triangular and continued behind as a spinal cord. Its function is to control activity of the internal organs. The internal organs of the body are going to be controlled using the medulla oblongata. For example, peristaltic movements of the alimentary canal, movement of breathing, beating of the heart, many other involuntary actions. Injury to the medulla generally results in death. So yeah, इसीलिए बोलते हैं ना कि यहाँ पे किसी को मारना नहीं चाहिए. क्यों? Because of the medulla oblongata. If that gets damaged, then it results to death, because the internal involuntary activities, heart को impulse कौन देता है? Medulla oblongata. Lungs को कौन देता है? Stomach को कौन देता है? Intestine को कौन देता है? So that is all done with the help of medulla oblongata. That is why damage caused to medulla oblongata will cause death. So this was about the three parts of the brain, that is cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. You can also divide the brain into three sections, that is the front brain, hind brain and the intermediate part. So we can also differentiate, or we can say that there will be three primary regions of the brain. All parts taken together, the brain may be said to be consisting of three primary regions: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The various parts under each region and their principal function are as follows. Forebrain, so that is the frontal part. The frontal part of the brain is the forebrain. The forebrain consists of cerebrum, the cerebral hemispheres, left and right, both everything, which is going to do, what are the functions it does? Seat of intelligence, memory, consciousness, willpower, voluntary action. So all this is done with the help of cerebrum. Forebrain does these actions. Over here there is also two more things over here. This is called as diencephalon. So apart from the cerebrum, the lower part of the cerebrum, that is called as diencephalon. Now diencephalon has got two parts, which is thalamus and hypothalamus. Thalamus relays pain and pressure impulse to the cerebrum, and hypothalamus controls the body temperature and pituitary. So hypothalamus and thalamus are the two small gland-like structures which are going to release the thalamus is going to give you the sensation of pain and pressure, okay, and the hypothalamus is going to maintain the temperature of the body, and also it is a pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is located in the hypothalamus. The next is the midbrain. Now a small tubular part reflexing involves eyes and ears. So reflex of the eyes and ears are in the midbrain. Very small area in case of human beings. So that is a very small area. And finally is the hindbrain. Hindbrain, the backside, which is the medulla oblongata and the cerebellum. And the pons, yeah, which is something new now. Cerebellum, coordinate muscular activities, balance of the body. And pons, it is located in the center of the brain below the cerebellum. It carries impulses from one hemisphere to the cerebellum to another hemisphere and coordinates muscular movement of both sides of the body. See, medulla oblongata, cerebellum के पास भी दो hemispheres है, right and left. And between them, the connection which is going to control the right of the body and the left hand side of the body and right hand side of the body, that is going to be done with this particular pons. So the pons are going to be the one which is going to carry the impulses between the hemispheres of the cerebellum. And finally is medulla oblongata, controls the activities of internal organs, heartbeat, breathing, etc. That is all the involuntary activities of our body. So this was about the structure of the brain. So we understood the structure of the brain, of the CNS, that is the cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata, or forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. We now see the structure of the spinal cord. The spinal cord extends from the medulla of the brain down almost the whole length of the backbone to end at the second lumbar vertebrae and lies within the neural canal of the vertebrae. So we know that the vertebral column at the center over here, the vertebral column is over here, the complete vertebral column, the backbone which is there, it has got a canal in between. So एक वो canal के बीच में से the spinal cord is moving and it goes right down into our coccyx, lumbar region के नीचे वाला part है, तो वहाँ तक second lumbar तक वो नीचे जाता है. So right from there to the lower part. So right from the backbone to and ends at the second lumbar vertebrae. Figure 10.8 B shows the internal structure of the spinal cord in cross section. So that is the figure which is given over here, 10.8 B. One sec, 10.8 B. Where's 10.8 B? Okay, I could not find one. Okay, maybe in the earlier textbook it must be given, but right now they are not giving that. It is 10.9 which is over here. Take it, not here the arrangement of the white matter and the grey matter is reversed from the brain. So now we can understand this way. See, in brain, the cytons are outside, so the grey matter outside, white matter inside. Why? Because the axons need to be inside. But now what happens? In the spinal cord, the axons are going to go outwards. So, axons are outside and the cyton will be inside. Because the cyton is inside, so grey matter is inside and white matter is outside. So that's why the structure of the spinal cord is opposite to the structure of the brain. The structure of the brain is white matter inside and grey matter outside. The structure of the spinal cord is the white matter outside and grey matter inside. So here the arrangement of the white and the grey matter is reversed from the brain. The grey matter containing the cell bodies of motor efferent and the association neuron lies on the inner side and the white matter on the outside. The white matter contains axon running longitudinally to and from the brain and even crossing from one side or to the other side. There is a small central canal in the center which runs the entire length and is continuous with the cavities of the brain. It is also filled with cerebrospinal fluid which acts as a shock-proof cushion and forms a medium for the exchange of food material, waste products and respiratory gases with the neurons. So you can see the spinal cord is going to the central canal and that canal is also filled with the cerebrospinal fluid. The cerebrospinal fluid is not only acting as a cushion or the protective mechanism for that, but at the same time it is also acting as a transport mechanism for the waste products or the exchange of food material and waste products or respiratory gases to the neurons which are present in this spinal cord. Externally, the spinal cord is covered by the same three membranes, dura mater, arachnoid and pia mater, in continuation with those of the brain. Now we see the functions of the spinal cord. So there are three main functions of the spinal cord. First is The spinal cord is concerned with the following three functions. Reflexes below the neck. Whatever reflexes we require. यहाँ पे I see that I touch something and it is hot, I withdrew my hand. Okay, I am standing over here and I suddenly a nail pricks me, I withdrew my hand. Okay, whatever I am going to have the reflexes below the neck. Okay, जो sunlight आया मैंने ऐसे हाथ किया तो that is not with the spinal cord because it was related to the brain. But anything which is reflexes below the neck is going to take place with the help of the spinal cord. So all the reflexes below the neck takes place by the spinal cord. Secondly, conducts sensory impulses from the skin and the muscle to the brain, and conducts motor responses from the brain and the muscle to the trunk and the limbs. So first is, the second part is sensory organ to the spinal cord and to the brain. So basically, conduction of all the impulses from the sense organs to the brain is taken care by the spinal cord. And similarly, all the information from the brain to the effector muscles and the glands is also done with the spinal cord. So that's why we have the three functions of spinal cord. First is all the reflexes below the neck. Secondly is the conducts sensory impulses from the skin or the sense organs to the brain, and finally the conducts the motor impulses from the brain to the body, to the muscles of the trunk and the limbs. So that are the functions of the spinal cord. So this was about the central nervous system. So central nervous system, we know that it is the brain and the spinal cord. Brain containing the cerebellum and the medulla oblongata. Whereas the spinal cord is just a single part, it doesn't have any more parts. It is only thing is that here brain, the inner matter is white, here the outer matter is white. Here outer matter is grey, here inner matter is grey. So that is important between the difference between the brain and the spinal cord. The next we see is peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system includes the nerves which carry impulses to and from the central nervous system. It is divided into somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So, peripheral nervous system, we see that peripheral nervous system is the one which is going into or outside the spinal cord of the brain. Those particular nerves which are moving from, or nerve impulses which are traveling from the spinal cord to outside, or brain to outside the body, outside into the body, or from the body into the spinal cord, is done with the help of peripheral nervous system. We have two kinds, somatic and autonomic. First of all, let's see the somatic nervous system. These consist of two sets of nerves, cranial and spinal. So they are consisting of two sets of nerve, cranial. Cranial means head part and spinal is the lower part of the body. So cranial emerges from the brain. There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, some of which are sensory like olfactory nose, the optic and the auditory nerve. So there are 12 nerves which are going to be there in our head part. The head part consists of the cranial, somatic, peripheral nervous system. The cranial nerves are 12, there are 12 such functions which are going to be done with the help of the, or which are going to be experienced by our body, by the cranial nerves. That out of the three examples which I easily remember is nose to smell, the hearing, the auditory nerve, and eye, optic nerve. So olfactory nerve, optical nerve and auditory nerve are the three examples out of the 12 of the cranial nerves. The next one is motor nerve, like the one going to the eye muscles, and the mixed nerve like going to and from the face and the tongue. So there will be one which is the motor nerve which will be moving the eye ka movement ke liye, uska motor nerve also is one of the cranial nerve, And then there is the movement of the tongue and the faces. So face का movement, दो cheek का movement है या अंदर का tongue का movement है. So there are all the mixed nerves which are going to be there, which is taking care of that part. So that is the cranial nerves. There are 12 cranial nerves. The next we see are the spinal nerves. Now spinal nerves are the one which starts from here up to the lower part of the spinal cord. So spinal cord से बाहर निकलने वाले जो nerves है, they are the spinal nerves, and there are 31 of those. There are 31 nerves which are there in the spinal nerve. Spinal nerve emerges from the spinal cord. There are 31 pairs, 8 pairs in the neck region. So just in this much neck region, there are 8 pairs. There are 8 pairs which are going from the neck towards a different part. So 8 in the neck region, 12 in the thorax region. Then thorax region on the back side, thorax region, there are 12 of them. 5 pair in the lumbar region and 5 in the sacral and 1 pair in the coccyx. So in this way there are 8 plus 12 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1. So that is how it is 31 pairs of cranial, 31 pairs of spinal nerves. The typical spinal nerve originates from the spinal cord by means of 2 roots, a dorsal root and a ventral root. So whenever you see a spinal nerve, the spinal nerve will be such that it will be having 2 pathways, like one is the dorsal root, another is the ventral root. So again, the dorsal root with the one which will be the one which is the sensory nerve, and the ventral root will be the one which will be the effector one. So that is the motor one. So sensory will be the dorsal and motor will be the ventral. So a typical nerve originates from the spinal cord by means of 2 roots, a dorsal root and a ventral root. Each dorsal root has an ovoidal dorsal ganglion. So there will be a ganglion which will be allowing it to emerge inside or go outside. Every spinal nerve is a mixed nerve having both sensory and motor fibers. So each and every spinal nerve, the spinal nerve will be a mixed nerve because it will be having the, I told you, dorsal side पे sensory nerve and motor side, ventral side पे motor nerve. इसलिए वो complete one spinal nerve becomes a mixed nerve because it has got a sensory also and a motor also. At the junction of the two roots, the sensory and the motor fibers separate out. The sensory fiber continue in the dorsal root and motor fiber into the ventral root. So they enter into the ganglion. उसके बाद में the one which is from the dorsal side, it is going to go will be the one which is from the sensory side, and then it is going to continue towards the motor part, that is the ventral root. Both the roots enter the grey matter of the spinal cord and end into the corresponding dorsal and ventral projecting horns of the grey matter. So there will be like projections over there, which is the connecting part, which is called as the horns. So connection, यहाँ से जैसे वायर यहाँ पे terminate करते हैं, हम लोग इसको connect करते हैं, so that are called as the horns of the spinal cord, which is in the grey matter, which is nothing but the cyton. So we have this as the somatic nervous system. The next thing what we have is the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, ANS, consists of pairs of chains of nerves and ganglia on either side of the backbone. The system controls the involuntary actions of the internal organs. There are 2 parts of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, again, there are 2 parts. One is sympathetic and other one is asympathetic. Parasympathetic. Okay, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So that means the ANS, that is the autonomous nervous system, it is there on the backbone के दोनों side पे. There are the autonomic nervous system, and this system controls the involuntary actions. Whatever involuntary actions of the internal organs is there. All the internal organs, the involuntary actions are going to be controlled by this particular autonomic nervous system, and they are divided into 2 parts. One is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Nerves of sympathetic system arise from the spinal cord between the neck and the waist region. So between the neck and the waist region, ये दोनों के बीच में, यानी पूरे backbone के area में, पूरे backbone के पास में, there will be the sympathetic region system, and the parasympathetic system is located at 2 places. One anteriorly in the head and neck, and the other posteriorly at the sacral. So one over here and one at the लोअर पार्ट ऑफ द बैक, वो दोनों वहाँ पे पैरासिम्पैथेटिक, एक पैरासिम्पैथेटिक यहाँ पे, एक पैरासिम्पैथेटिक यहाँ पे नीचे इन द sacral region. These two parts are in general opposite to each other in action. So sympathetic and parasympathetic are opposite words. एक चीज जो काम करेगा पैरासिम्पैथेटिक उसका एग्जैक्टली उल्टा काम करेगा. अगर एक ब्लड वेसल को डिलेट करेगा तो पैरासिम्पैथेटिक उसको कंस्ट्रिक्ट करेगा. एक हार्ट बीट को फास्ट करेगा तो दूसरा उसको कूल डाउन करेगा. ओके, सो always sympathetic and parasympathetic are going to do opposite work. Okay, the work done by them will be opposite in nature. The sympathetic nervous system is stimulated by the hormone adrenaline secreted by the adrenal gland located on the kidney. So sympathetic condition, sympathetic word से पता चला कि sympathy आ गया अपने को. वैसे when the body feels that it is in a condition of having sympathy on it, okay, then it goes into the sympathetic condition where automatically the things like more amount of heartbeat, more blood vessel, वो सब होने लगेगा. So sympathetic condition is the one in which the adrenaline which is present in the just above the kidney, there is the adrenal gland which produces a particular kind of an enzyme hormone called as adrenaline, which when it is flowing in the blood, it is causing the such kind of sympathetic condition. So sympathetic condition is going to be brought about in the body with the help of the adrenaline which is produced by the adrenal gland which is placed on top of the kidney. Remember, sympathetic nervous system prepares the body for violent actions against abnormal conditions. So whenever the body is going to become more aggressive, जब वो करना है, at that time the body runs into the sympathetic condition. Okay, so at that time the body, like मैं तो बता ना, जैसे हार्ट बीट फास्ट हो जाएंगे, ब्लड वेसल कंस्ट्रिक्ट हो जाएंगे या ब्लड वेसल डिलेट होंगे, कुछ जगह पे ज़्यादा ब्लड चाहिए. तो डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द कंडीशंस, वॉट एवर इज द रिक्वायरमेंट ऑफ द बॉडी, इट इज गोइंग टू गिव इट एक्स्ट्रा so that the body is ready to fight or ready in action. So such a condition is called as a sympathetic condition. So sympathetic condition prepares the body for violent action against abnormal condition, whereas parasympathetic will normalize it. Parasympathetic उसको हाँ चलो सब खो गया, खत्म, relax, okay, come back to normal. That is what the parasympathetic is doing. Parasympathetic nervous system is more concerned with re-establishing normal conditions after a violent action is over. So सिंपल, जैसे तुम लोग अगर जाते हो अपना रिजल्ट लेने के लिए, तो रिजल्ट लेने के लिए जाते तो क्या होता है, हार्ट बीट फास्ट हो गए, मुंह सूख रहा है, मीन्स यू आर ट्रेमरिंग, तो वो सब कंडीशन जब भी आते हैं तो दैट इज व्हाट सिंपैथेटिक कंडीशन. एंड देन व्हेन द रिजल्ट इज गुड, एवरीथिंग इज फाइन, व्हाट हैपेंस, द बॉडी इज बैक टू नॉर्मल, हार्ट बीट्स नॉर्मल हो गया, सब कुछ नॉर्मल हो गया, ओके, यू आर नॉट स्वेटिंग एनी लॉन्गर. सो दैट इज द री-एस्टैब्लिशिंग ऑफ द नॉर्मल कंडीशन इज डन बाय द parasympathetic nervous system. So that is how the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system works. So they are given you a table over here which is going to give you the details about the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So you can see under sympathetic condition the heart accelerates heartbeat, whereas parasympathetic retards the heartbeat. Blood vessels in case of sympathetic constrict all blood vessels except coronary vessels which are dilated, whereas parasympathetic dilated all blood vessels except coronary which becomes constricted. Lungs dilates the bronchial and bronchioles, whereas parasympathetic constricts the bronchial and bronchioles. Intestine paralysis decreases, paralysis increases in case of parasympathetic. Urinary bladder sphincter contraction, muscle relaxed, and parasympathetic sphincter relaxation, muscle contraction, feeling to urinate. Pupils of the eye dilation, constriction in case of parasympathetic. Salivary glands inhibits secretion of saliva, so dryness in the mouth, whereas parasympathetic stimulates secretion of saliva. Lacrimal glands, the tear glands, they are going to stimulate the secretion. Sympathetic condition में हम लोग को रोने जैसा भी हो जाता है, so that is the secretion, stimulate secretion, whereas parasympathetic inhibits the secretion, reduces the secretion. Erector, that is the erector or pili, that is the piloerectors, hair muscles of the skin, stimulus contraction, so hair raised, heart में goosebumps aa jate hain. So that is why it is a sympathetic condition. Parasympathetic relaxes, hair flattens. And finally, body as a whole prepare for action is a sympathetic condition, whereas parasympathetic condition, it is preparing for relaxation. So the components of the nervous system at a glance is nervous system is divided into two parts: central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system divided into brain and the spinal cord. The brain consists of the cerebellum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. That is, the cerebellum controls the conscious and the unconscious mind, intelligence, memory, reasoning, etc. Cerebellum maintains the balance of the body, and medulla coordinates involuntary actions like heartbeats, breathing, peristalsis, etc. Spinal cord, it is going to control the reflexes, action, conveys impulses. And then the peripheral nervous system, two parts: somatic, autonomic. Somatic, 12 cranial nerves and 31 spinal nerves. And the autonomic divided into two parts: sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic nerves between neck and the waist, stimulatory, accelerate heartbeat, dilates pupils, constrict blood vessels, releases sugar from liver. And parasympathetic nerves above neck, below the sacral, calming down and restores normal body condition. So this is about the autonomic nervous system. Yeah, one more thing is the emotions in autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is strongly influenced by the emotions such as grief, anger, fear, sexual stimulation, etc. High blood pressure, stomach ulcer, and some other troubles may arise due to long continued emotional stresses. So this is what is about the nervous system, that is the parts of the nervous system or the different points of the nervous system, or the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. We now continue with the reflexes. So we now see the reflexes, but in the next video.